It's been a while since you could hand on heart say that BMW's range has been filled with truly beautiful cars. Instead, its mission of late seems to have been to build models that just stand out with their design with big, bold details, which I think leads us quite nicely onto this, the 2 Series Gran Coupe. In this CarGurus UK review, we're going to take a close look at this new addition to the BMW stable to see if it warrants your attention. As ever, before we begin, here's a quick reminder to please like, comment and subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to turn on notifications so you'll never miss when one of our videos goes live. Right, so the 2 Series Gran Coupe, it's based on the new 1 Series, a review of which you can see by clicking on a link in the description underneath this video. Now, this is actually the first time BMW has applied its Gran Coupe treatment to its smallest range of cars. And the idea, it says, is to stop people moving to other brands when they want to downsize from a 5 Series or a 3 Series. Now, the design of the car you can make your own mind up about, but I will show you some of the details that BMW has applied to try and make the car look as sleek and as coupe-like as possible. And we'll start, obviously, with this grille. So this is a one-piece grille, same as on the 1 Series. And what they've done here is they've pulled the edges down slightly so they lead into the headlights. These are LED lights. And the idea of that is to make the car look lower and a bit tougher. And then if we move around to the side of the car, the whole car is actually slightly lower than a 1 Series. You also get details like frameless windows here. There's a crease down the side of the car. And the idea of applying touches like this is to give the same Gran Coupe aesthetic that you get in things like the 8 Series Gran Coupe and the 4 Series Gran Coupe. This car is on 18-inch wheels. It's M Sport spec car. You can go up to 19. They start with 17s. I don't know about you, I think these probably look a little bit small, but as we'll come to later, dynamically they are a better option than the 19s. And then we come round to the back of the car. Now this is arguably the 2 Series Gran Coupe's most controversial angle. But again, BMW says it's really tried to make the car look as low and as coupe-like as possible. So for example, it talks about this line along here, this strip. Now you can have this in chrome, in this car it's black, but this is designed to visually lower the height of the car. And similarly, these rear lights and the way they wrap around the bodywork are just designed to make it look as wide and as tough as possible. At 430 litres, the boot is a useful size. You lose some height compared with the 1 Series, but it's deep and has a false floor that can either be used to divide the low bay or folded out of the way to create one larger space. The rear seats can be folded to increase capacity. Right, the space in the back here is actually a fairly important consideration because it is, after all, the reason you would go for this 4-door coupe over a regular 2-door coupe. So the good news is, it's actually not bad at all. I'm 5'11", this is set for me, and as you can see, legroom is pretty good. The seat's actually set quite low at the moment, but I can still get my feet underneath. But what about headroom? Because that's the thing you'd imagine would be compromised. Well, if I lean back, yeah, my head does brush the roof, but if I sit normally, actually it's okay. I also like pretty big windows, so it feels quite light in here. Door pockets, you can store a bottle in there if you want. And although it's tight to get 3 people across, you can do it, so there is that extra practicality. This transmission tunnel isn't too high, which is good. So yeah, actually, practicality-wise, it's all right. So, if you want more space than a 2-door 2 Series coupe, but you still want the coupe styling, this is a good option. Now, if you've been in the new 1 Series, there are absolutely no surprises in this 2 Series Gran Coupe at all, because it's basically the same. Not that that's a criticism, because this has to be one of the best small car interiors there is, certainly there with the Mercedes A-Class for quality, and also I really like the design as well. Plus all the main contact points feel very tactile, and it's very easy to get a good driving position. There's loads of adjustment in the seat and in the steering wheel, and like I say, you can get this seat nice and low. Visibility meanwhile is fine at the front, but the over-the-shoulder view is hampered by the sloping roofline. This infotainment system uses BMW's iDrive 7.0 setup. We've seen it in lots of other BMWs and it's a fantastic system. You can control it via touchscreen, you can use gesture control, you can use voice, and thankfully BMW has retained this rotary controller, and this is by far the easiest way to control the system on the move. You also can have BMW's digital dial setup on higher spec models. To me personally, I find them a bit fussy. compared with BMW's much more elegant analog dials. In-car storage is good as well. You've got door bins here, they're big enough to carry a bottle of water, cup holders here, a mobile phone holder, more space under there, and a decent sized glove box. So if you're Rebecca Jackson, you're not going to have a problem carrying a few bunches of bananas. So we've talked a bit about the design of the 2 Series Gran Coupe, we've looked at the space, we've gone into the technology, but what about the driving experience? After all, if you're buying a BMW, you should expect it to be really good to drive. Well, first things first, this 218i model is a 3-cylinder 1.5 litre petrol engine. Actually, it's really good. It might sound a bit weedy, but because it has a turbocharger, it actually feels quite perky, and matched with this 8-speed automatic gearbox, this is an option, but it works really well. Although the smallest petrol engine in the 2 Series Gran Coupe lineup, the 1.5 still offers 140 horsepower and 162 pound-foot of torque. That's enough to get it from 0 to 62 miles per hour in 8.7 seconds. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is a fast car, because it's not, but it's, you know, reasonably swift. And if it's just going to be you and one passenger on board, then for the most part, I think you're going to find it's fine. And this is a refined engine, it's actually really quite smooth. Now, if you're going to carry more passengers, if there's going to be 4 or even 5 of you on board, you will find that you need to drop a gear or 2 if you're going up a steep hill. But, you know, normal road speeds, for most of the time, this engine is going to suit most people absolutely fine. Dressed up in this M Sport trim, you might expect the 2 Series Gran Coupe to offer sporty handling too. So what's the reality? Now, this car is based on the same platform as the 1 Series. It has the same wheelbase and the same track, and like the new 1 Series, it comes as standard with front-wheel drive. Now, we go into a bit more detail about the significance of that in our review of the 1 Series, which, like I say, there's a link to in the description. But I don't want to get bogged down in that here. What I will say though is that this is a really good front-wheel drive setup. Obviously, we know it helps with packaging, but it also feels stable, it feels agile, the steering is quick and well weighted. Now, what you don't get is that same sense of mid-corner balance and adjustability that you get with BMW's best rear-wheel drive setups. However, this car does still feel connected to the road. It feels satisfying to drive. We've also tested the M135i Gran Coupe, and as you'd expect, it's a real step up in performance. Now, as my colleague Dan Prosser found out when testing the M135i against the Golf R, BMW's 2-litre turbo engine that it uses in the 135i and the 235i is really strong. It pulls hard from low revs, and it's got such a strong mid-range that really 4th gear is all that you need to tackle a good B-road. Now, it's not a particularly delicate car to drive, that M135i, but it is very effective. And unlike this car, it comes as standard with BMW's xDrive 4-wheel drive system. So if you like the basic formula for this 2 Series Gran Coupe but want more speed, the M135i should just do the trick. What I would say though, and this really applies to a 2 Series Gran Coupe in M Sport specification with its stiffer springs and dampers, is just watch out for the ride. So this car on 18-inch wheels and with the M Sport suspension is okay, but we've tried the M135i, that was on 19-inch wheels, and that really did have a tough ride quality, and on a bumpy road it actually became quite tiresome. So our advice then would be to consider the smaller wheel sizes, and if you do go for an M135i, it's also worth thinking about going for the optional variable dampers. You'll still have the good body control that you get with the 2 Series and the nice steering, but it just means that you won't feel quite so bruised every time you go over a bumpy road. BMW describes this car as a highly desirable 4-door coupe. Now, if we were talking about the 6 Series Gran Coupe, the 4 Series Gran Coupe, or the 8 Series Gran Coupe, I think that would be perfectly fair. But what do we think about it being applied to this smaller 2 Series? I invite you to let us know in the comments. What I will say for now though is that just like the new 1 Series, this car is pretty practical, it's good to drive, and it feels like a proper BMW. And that last point, that's the one that really matters, isn't it? So does the 2 Series Gran Coupe appeal to you, or would you prefer a 4-door from Audi, Mercedes or Hyundai perhaps? Let us know, and please do also subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when our new videos go live. Remember too that CarGurus.co.uk is the place to go to find great deals from top rated dealers when searching for your next car.